Hey everybody, it's Shamika. Wanted to bring you a video about the little known things that are listed in the CARES Act. Some of these things are going to be such a small blurb. A lot of people aren't paying attention to them. They may not necessarily be things that they're going to pick up and talk about in the news, but I wanted to be able to string those all together and bring those to you now so that you can get all the information you need to be fully educated. Hey, so please like, subscribe, share my videos if you will. I appreciate you guys' support, and we're going to get into it right now. All right. So there were a lot of little known things that came out in the CARES Act that a lot of people may have not even been aware of, but I'm going to get to the one that I thought was the most important, and it is your credit. Since that is something I'm super passionate about talking about, I wanted to tell you what the CARES Act put in the bill for you. So if you are affected by the coronavirus, okay, meaning you had to stop working, your hours got cut down, your job closed down, whatever it may be, if you have not taken advantage of calling everybody that you pay money to, and I mean everybody, then you're doing yourself a disservice, okay? If you have not called the credit card companies, if you have not called your mortgage company to see if they're offering anything, if you haven't called your car company, the car loan company, to see if they're offering anything, your cell phone company, if you haven't called your home phone, if you have a home phone, a landline, I don't know who still does, but some people still do. If you have not called them, your utilities, there are some that are offering some and there are some that are not offering things, but this is the time to call and offer, and ask everybody, what are they currently offering you during this time? And if you have not done that, like I said before, you're doing yourself a disservice. This is a great time to take advantage of those things. Of course, you're still going to end up owing these debts, these bills. So I'm not saying put your bills on hold and go on a shopping spree, because you can't really do that anyway. But for those who are struggling and have a need to have a break financially so they can eat, I definitely would say call all of these people and see what it is that they're offering you. Now, if you have already called, say, your credit card companies, anyone that reports to the credit bureaus, during this time, they cannot report any negative remarks about you for 120 days after the declaration of this pandemic is over. So that gives us a pretty long time. So that's, 120 days, that's 6 months. We really don't even know when this pandemic is going to be over. But let's just say it ends in May. Well, we have 6 months from May that creditors cannot report negative things on our credit reports because we were affected by the pandemic. And technically, they're not supposed to say anything. If you watch one of my other videos, I stated it. A lot of times they like to sneak in remarks saying that you were affected by a natural disaster or, got on a payment plan or is on a mortgage modification. You don't need any of that information to be on your credit report. So if you do see things like that being reported that you did not authorize in the remarks section, I would go back to your servicer or whoever it is that reported it and ask them to correct it. You can also dispute with the credit bureau, but ultimately it is going to have to be handled by the individual who actually reported it. So no negative remarks, no negative anything. Everything has to show that it's current. So some people may not want to put current. They may just put, if you go on Credit Karma, sometimes you'll see where it says no data. It'll be an N and a D, and that stands for no data. That just means that your servicer, your loan, your bank, whatever, they did not report any information for that time. I did not read anywhere where it stated that they are allowed to put no data. But it also didn't say that they couldn't do that either, because that's not necessarily anything derogatory. So I would say whether it says no data or current, those should be the only two things that you should accept to see on your credit report from, this moment on. And remember, it is 120 days from cessation, of the declaration. So when this is over, when it's ceased, they have 120 days not to report anything. So it gives you a little bit of time to work out some things, to get caught up if you happen to be behind. They're giving you time to let some of this unemployment money come in, the stimulus money come in, so that you can get caught up and you're not going to be punished for it. You definitely want to take advantage of, like I said, those programs, whether it's, no payment due for 2 months or 3 months or however long they're giving you, or reducing interest, whatever they may be giving. Look at it and decide if it fits your situation, but do not let them get off the hook and not offer you anything, because more than likely they should. Now, something that was not added in the plan, which I wish that it was, but when it comes to your cable, your utilities, and your internet, the CARES Act did not prevent these companies from turning them off. Now, they do prevent from evicting you, but it does not prevent your electric company from turning your electric bill off, your electric off. Same for your cable, your internet, or phone. I would tell you to call them, of course. I am sure, because they all signed, maybe not the utility companies so much, but the cable companies and all, they did sign an act with the, they signed an act with the Federal Trade Commission that they were going to not discontinue the service, to keep everybody connected. So I am hoping that nobody is turning anybody's stuff off. But in the event that that does happen and you do not know what to do, well, one thing that you don't do is you don't want to go outside and beat anybody up. You don't want to get into any issues like that. A lot of times they turn these things off remotely. Sometimes they'll have somebody come out. If you find that they're turning your stuff off in the midst of this and you want to make a complaint, you make a complaint with your mayor, your county commissioner, your senator of your state, and the attorney general of your state. Those would be the individuals that you go and you make those complaints to, because these things need to be noted for when we have another situation. May not be a situation like this, but any type of situation that calls for a national emergency, we need to know which utility companies are not supporting the consumers who are actually putting money in their hands, is keeping them afloat. So you make sure you go and you tell if they are not treating you the way you feel that you should be getting treated. All right, let's get to the renters, because I know you guys heard about not being able to get put out. So one thing I'm going to tell you guys is, do not try to stiff your landlord, because they have to get paid in order to pay for whatever it is they pay for, more than likely probably on the unit that you are living in. A lot of those things are not paid off and they have a mortgage on them and have to pay. All right. So, but for landlords and for renters, here's how this affects you, this new CARES Act. If you, landlord, have a building, a unit, or whatever that you are currently renting, and it is backed by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, and some USDA government programs, you are on a 120-day moratorium. You cannot evict your renters during this time. And the reason why is because you have a government-backed loan, and technically your renters can report you for trying to evict them, and they stay in a unit that is government owned. Now, it's not that difficult to find out if something has a government loan on it. You can easily look up an address and you can see if it's a VA loan, or you can see a lot of stuff. So it's not like it's going to be super hard for somebody who's diligent to find out if your unit has a mortgage on it and how that mortgage is backed or was acquired. A lot of mortgages are automatically sold to Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. They're the biggest mortgage securities buyer. They buy all the mortgages. So I would say this is almost everyone this would apply to. So it's 120 days that you cannot evict anybody. You also cannot charge fees or any penalties for late rental payments or for non-payment. In this type of situation, you landlords should be aware of what is going on and how individuals are being affected. These people probably have children, and people should not have to choose between eating or paying the rent. So the government is asking you to please give them a break, but they are not saying we're not here to help you, because they are. They are telling you they will give you assistance, but you do have to go through your bank to get assistance, to get a moratorium also on your mortgage payments. So not only are they asking you not to evict your tenants who can't pay their rent, they're also telling you that we're going to work with you so that we can give you a break on not having to make payments either for the 6 months. So it's actually a win-win for everybody. Now, this does not apply for individuals who are already in the eviction process. So if you were already being evicted before the coronavirus came, you cannot use this as a way to stay. I tell you, really, it's going to boil down to the date, or if there was already an eviction process, if they already went down to the courthouse to put you on notice, you can't do it. But if other than that, it's probably just going to come down to the date. This coronavirus really just became active, or as big as it has been. I mean, it's been here since January. So I'm actually believing that they're probably going to go by the January 1st, 2020 date. So if you were in the process of having any type of eviction issues this year before, well, actually this year, you might be safe. So it all is going to depend. It's going to come down to the date. I would really just tell you, if you have an issue with your landlord, and I know some of them are being a-holes and you can't really talk to them and all that, I would tell you to first talk to them to see if you guys can come to some type of agreement. You know, that they would give you some type of break, or, you know, whatever, because they technically cannot ask you to pay them anything if they fall under this. But how would you know? That's going to be difficult for some as well. I am going to put down a 800 number that is for individuals who are renters. If you need assistance, you need aid, you have questions, you can reach out to these people and they will try to be a resource for you. I'm hoping that nobody gets put out during this time. Things do happen. I will tell you that if it comes down to an issue of somebody trying to evict you and calling the police or showing up to your house and things like that, during this time with this coronavirus, it's going to be very, very difficult, because that actually becomes a civil matter. It's not a criminal issue. It's a civil issue. And if there is a moratorium, or if your county courthouse is closed and they're not really taking anybody and they're not really letting anyone come in for court cases and things like that, everything gets delayed. So you do have some time to work out something with your landlord, and or call the resource hotline to see what you can do if you have to report them if they are trying to evict you illegally. All right. Now, moving on to the the flex spending accounts. If you have a flex spending account with your job, and that's usually just pre-tax dollars that are put in a spending account, so that if you have to go and pay for doctor bills or medical supplies or prescriptions or anything like that, you're actually using pre-tax dollars. The one thing that they did add here in this CARES Act is now women, we can now get menstrual products. Woo! So we can now have menstrual products added to our flex spending account, so you can now get those items, and they're now going to be tax-free. All right. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, retirement accounts. I think this is so awesome, you guys. All right, so if you have a 401k, if you have an IRA or some type of retirement savings account that's not one of the old-fashioned accounts, but just the old ones, if it's a newer one, you are allowed to withdraw or borrow or get a loan from yourself for up to $100,000 with no penalty if you were affected by coronavirus. So that means someone you're taking care of has gotten sick and you now need to go home to take care of them. A daycare closed and you have no one to watch your kids, or whatever the situation may be, as long as it's coronavirus related. Even if you're an individual who actually has been diagnosed, you can go and withdraw the money from your retirement account and have no penalty, which is cool, because that's a nice $10,000 break. And for those who do not know, whenever you withdraw from your retirement accounts early, usually before 59 and a half, you get charged 10% penalty. And in this case, during the coronavirus, they are waiving that so you can actually withdraw and not have to pay anything when you file your taxes because you're going to select that it was coronavirus related. Now, if you're an individual with an older retirement account, you still can withdraw up to $100,000. The CARES Act does allow you to withdraw double the amount that you normally would, but the max limit, or shall I say the cap, is at 100,000. Yes, there is still a penalty for you because you do not fall under the break like everybody else does that would normally get this for coronavirus related incidents. So unfortunately, you would have to pay the $10,000 fee, but you are allowed to withdraw more than you normally would. Because normally you can't withdraw more than half of what you have in your retirement account, but now you can almost take everything out if you wanted to, and pay a fee if you're on an old program, or not pay a fee if you're under a newer retirement plan. All right. So what else do I have here? Okay, so if you have a loan that you are currently repaying, so if you have a previous year's loan that you're currently repaying and it's supposed to be paid off December 31st of this year, they have now extended your due date until December 31st of 2021. So you get a year extension to kind of give you a break also on making payments on that. If you have a loan that you took out between the years of 17, 18, or 19, you get to now spread out that 10% penalty that you had gotten before. You now get to spread out that penalty over 3 years. And I said 17, 18, and 19 because it goes back from 3 years from the date of distribution. So if you go back 3 years, 2017 would be the third year. So they go by the date of your distribution. So for example, if you got a distribution December 2017, you then would, when you file your 2018 taxes, normally you're going to get that penalty, and you may owe because maybe you didn't get enough, or maybe you still have some income tax that you still had to pay. They are now, IRS is now spreading that payment out for you over 3 years to give you a little bit of help. So there are some good things that came up with the retirement account. Not here to tell anybody what to do with their money, but if you're an individual with a plan, or you're looking to get out of debt so that you can start over fresh, if you're going to look at withdrawing for any of those reasons, those might be some that you actually might want to give another thought to, because it is a good way to get on your feet to start over. Of course, you don't want to get into debt again, so you have to be one of those individuals that are disciplined enough to not fall back into debt. But this is a good way if you're trying to start over because you've learned from the mistakes that you've made. This is definitely one way to get you on your feet. All right, so charity. And this is the last portion of the video here, but if you are an individual who you have enough money and you want to donate to charity, now under the CARES Act, they actually are giving you a 100% deduction for the charity. So if you donate $1 million, and it has to be cash and it has to be given to a public charity, but they are letting you write off $1 million, okay? So whatever you give, as long as it's cash, and to a public charity, they're going to let you write that right off on your taxes under the charities section. Now, for those who are 1040 filers, and the reason I separated the 1040 from everybody else is because most of everybody else itemizes if they're not doing 1040. But if you are a 1040 filer, you usually do not itemize. They added in a new deduction where now you can donate up to $300, and it has to be cash, and it has to be donated to a public charity. But you can get 100% deduction for that $300 as well. So pretty much if you gave $300, you can deduct it from your income when you file taxes in 2020, and it helps you out a little bit. That's not that much, you know, for those, but at least you are getting your money back. that you donated. So this is kind of a win-win for everybody. So again, those are some of the little hidden things that you guys probably didn't know, that you may have not even heard them talk about too much when it came to the CARES Act, because a lot of people are really only talking about the business loan and the stimulus check. But these are some of the things that are just as important, and I wanted to bring them to you guys. So if you guys would, please like, subscribe, and share my video. I appreciate you guys' support, and I'll see you guys soon.